When I close my eyes at night, I still see him the way he was when he was just a boy, my little Daniel, running barefoot through our dusty yard, his laughter echoing through the air like music. He used to call me Mama, in that sweet, tender voice of his, always looking back to make sure I was watching. And I was always watching. My life revolved around that boy. You see, I didn't have much in this world. No riches, no big house, no fancy clothes, just a small, humble home. And my son, when his father left us, people whispered behind my back, saying we would never make it, but I worked myself to the bone to prove them wrong. I scrubbed floors in other people's houses, carried heavy baskets to the market, and went to bed with aching bones every night, all so my Daniel could have a better life. I remember skipping meals sometimes, pretending I wasn't hungry, just so he could eat his fill. He never knew, and I never told him. A mother's sacrifices aren't meant to be spoken about, they're just part of love. Daniel was a bright boy, too, always top of his class. Even when our clothes were worn and our shoes had holes, he would walk proudly to school, holding his books tight to his chest. I told him, education is the only inheritance I can give you, my son. Promise me you'll never waste it. And he promised, oh, how he promised, with those big, determined eyes of his. As he grew older, his world started to expand beyond our little home. He made friends whose families were better off. And sometimes I'd see the shame flicker across his face when they saw where we lived. It stung, but I understood. I told myself it was just a phase. Children, they always want to fit in. When Daniel got a scholarship to a big university in the city, I cried tears of joy. I sold my only piece of gold jewelry, a necklace my mother gave me, just to buy him a decent suitcase and a few good shirts. That day, as he boarded the bus, he hugged me tightly and said, Mama, when I make it, you'll never have to work another day in your life. My heart swelled with pride. I believed him, but city life, it changes people. At first he would call me every week, telling me about his classes, the people he met, the new foods he tried. I lived for those calls. I'd sit by the phone long before the time he usually rang, just waiting to hear his voice. Then, slowly, the calls became less frequent. Once a week turned into once a month. Then once a month turned into nothing at all. I told myself he must be busy with studies. That's what good mothers do. They make excuses for their children, even when their hearts ache. One day, I heard from a neighbor's child who was also in the city. She told me she had seen Daniel, dressed sharply, laughing with some well-to-do friends. She said he acted as though he didn't know her when she greeted him. My stomach dropped. I didn't want to believe her, but deep down, a part of me knew the truth. I decided to visit him, unannounced. It took almost all the money I had to make that trip. I packed some of his favorite homemade snacks, thinking maybe the taste of home would remind him of where he came from. When I arrived at his apartment, I was nervous but excited. I knocked softly at first, then harder. When he opened the door, I barely recognized him. My son, my sweet Daniel, was standing there in expensive clothes, his hair styled, his face cold and distant. Mama, what are you doing here? He asked, his voice flat. I smiled, my eyes welling up. I came to see you, my boy. I missed you so much. I held out the basket of food like a peace offering. He didn't take it. Instead, he glanced behind him, as if embarrassed. You shouldn't have come without telling me, he said sharply. I'm busy. My heart sank. Busy, Daniel. It's been months. I just wanted to see you, to make sure you're okay. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Look, Mama, I'm doing fine, but my life is different now. These people I'm with, they don't understand where we come from. It's just complicated. His words cut deeper than any knife. Complicated, I whispered. Daniel, I worked my whole life to get you here. Every ache in my body, every tear I shed, was for you. And now, you're ashamed of me. He looked away. That silence was louder than any confession. I tried to step inside, but he blocked the doorway. Please, Mama, just go home. I'll send you some money. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I couldn't breathe. My own son, my flesh and blood, was turning me away like a beggar at his door. I left without saying another word. The bus ride home was a blur of tears. I clutched that basket of food to my chest the whole way, as if holding on to the last piece of him. I still had. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. I never heard from him. My neighbors stopped asking about Daniel because they could see the pain on my face whenever his name was mentioned. I told everyone he was just busy, but at night, alone in my bed, I cried silently into my pillow, Sometimes, I'd sit by the window, staring at the road, hoping I'd see him walking up to our door like he used to. But he never came. Years passed this way. My hands grew weaker, my hair turned silver, and my heart grew heavy with sorrow. I prayed every night for God to watch over my son, even if he had forgotten me. Then, one rainy evening, there was a knock at my door. My heart nearly stopped. When I opened it, there he was, Daniel. He looked older, worn down. His eyes filled with something I hadn't seen in years. Regret. Mama. His voice cracked. I need to talk to you. I stood there, frozen, 1,000 emotions crashing inside me. Joy, anger, relief, pain. For a moment, I didn't know if I should slam the door or throw my arms around him. I stood there in the doorway, the storm raging behind him, and for a moment, I couldn't move. My fingers gripped the wooden doorframe so tightly, my knuckles turned white. This was the moment I had prayed for, dreamed about, but now that it was here, I didn't know what to do. Daniel stood in the rain, soaked to the bone, his eyes red and swollen. He looked nothing like the confident, proud man who had turned me away all those years ago. He looked broken. Mama, he whispered again, his voice trembling. Please, let me in. My chest ached, torn between anger and love. So many nights I had imagined what I'd say if he ever came back. I had rehearsed my anger, my disappointment. I had promised myself I would never make it easy for him. And yet, there he was, my son, my baby. I stepped aside slowly, my hands shaking. Come in, Daniel, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He stepped inside, dripping water onto the worn floorboards, the familiar smell of home wrapped around him, the wood smoke, the stew simmering on the stove. For a moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes, nostalgia, maybe, or guilt. We sat down at the old wooden table, the same table where he had once done his homework, where I had stayed up late sewing his school uniforms by candlelight. Silence stretched between us like a heavy fog. Finally, I spoke. You look tired, my son. What happened to you? He swallowed hard, his jaw tightening. Mama, I made mistakes. So many mistakes. I studied his face, lined with pain. Mistakes, I repeated softly. Daniel, you didn't just make mistakes. You turned your back on me. You threw me away like I was nothing. My voice cracked, and I quickly covered my mouth to stop the sob rising in my throat. His shoulders slumped, and for the first time, I saw tears glistening in his eyes. I know, he said hoarsely, and I hate myself for it every single day. I was so blinded by pride. I thought, if I could just bury my past, I'd finally belong in that world I wanted so badly. Those people, they made me feel ashamed of where I came from, ashamed of you. His voice broke completely, and he bowed his head, and I let them make me believe you weren't enough. The words stabbed deep, twisting the knife in wounds that had never healed. My breath caught. Daniel, I said, my voice trembling, do you have any idea what those years did to me? I waited, every single day. I waited for you to come home. I stared down that road until my eyes ached. I prayed for you even when everyone else said you were gone for good. And when you turned me away at your door, my lips quivered. That day, my heart broke in a way I didn't think was possible. His hands clenched into fists. Mama, please, don't stop. I need to hear this. I shook my head, tears spilling freely now. Do you know how many nights I went to bed hungry, just so you could have more? Do you know how many times I worked myself to the point of collapse, believing it was all worth it because you would have a better life? And then to see you ashamed of me. I placed a trembling hand over my chest. It was like you ripped the soul right out of me. Daniel covered his face with his hands and sobbed. I know, Mama, and I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please, hear me out. I sat silently, my tears falling, my heart caught in a storm of love and rage. He took a deep, shuddering breath. After I sent you away that day, I told myself it was for the best. I kept climbing higher in that world, getting promotions, earning more money, surrounding myself with people who didn't care about me. Not really. I thought success would fill the emptiness inside me. His voice dropped to a whisper, but it never did. He stared at the table, ashamed. Then I met a woman. She was everything. Smart, beautiful. I thought I'd finally built the perfect life. But when she learned about my past, about you, she said she couldn't marry me unless I completely cut ties. And like a fool, I chose her. I gasped softly, my heart aching. She left anyway, he continued bitterly, said I wasn't good enough for her world. And when she walked away, I realized I had nothing. I pushed away the one person who truly loved me. You. The room was silent except for the sound of rain pounding on the roof. I came home tonight because, his voice cracked, because I need my mother. I need the woman who raised me, who gave everything for me. I need your forgiveness, Mama, even if I don't deserve it. My whole body trembled. Part of me wanted to reach across the table, to pull him into my arms like I used to when he was a boy. But another part of me, the part that had been shattered by years of silence, wanted to scream, to tell him that sorry wasn't enough. I closed my eyes, and in the darkness, memories flooded back. Daniel's laughter as a child, his promise to take care of me, the emptiness of those long, lonely years. The day he turned me away, when I opened my eyes, he was still there, kneeling beside me now, clutching my hands. Mama, he whispered, tears streaming down his face, please don't send me away again. I can't bear it. I'll spend the rest of my life making this right. I swear to you. I cupped his face in my trembling hands, feeling the roughness of his unshaven jaw. Oh, my son, I murmured, my voice breaking. You hurt me more than anyone else ever could. You tore my heart apart. He flinched, his tears falling onto my hands. But, I continued, my voice softening, you are still my child, and the mother's love, it doesn't just disappear. His eyes widened with disbelief. Mama, are you saying you forgive me? Tears blurred my vision as I nodded slowly. I forgive you, Daniel, not because you deserve it, but because if I don't, this pain will destroy us both. I forgive you, because I want to heal. He collapsed into my arms, sobbing like he did when he was a little boy. I held him tightly, rocking him back and forth, my own tears mingling with his. For the first time in years, my home felt alive again. But even as I held him, a part of me whispered a painful truth. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It only gives us a chance to start over. We stayed like that for a long time, mother and son, holding each other while the storm outside softened into a gentle drizzle. His body shook with sobs, but slowly, his breathing steadied. My own tears ran dry, leaving only an aching tenderness in their place. When he finally pulled back, his face was blotched and swollen, his eyes red but clearer than I'd seen in years. He looked like my little boy again, the one who used to run to me after school, clutching his report card with pride. I don't deserve this, Daniel whispered, his voice raw. I don't deserve you. I reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. No, my son, you don't. But love isn't about what we deserve. It's about grace, and I choose to give you grace because I am your mother. He buried his face in my lap like he used to when he was a child. I swear, Mama, I'll never hurt you like that again. I'll spend the rest of my life proving it. My heart swelled, but a small part of me stayed cautious. Trust is like glass. Once shattered, it can be pieced together, but the cracks remain. That night, I prepared him a meal, the same stew I used to make when he was little, rich with herbs and spices he loved. As we ate, he told me about the years we had lost his career, his mistakes, his regrets. I listened, my heart aching for all the moments we had missed. When the meal was done, he stood and began washing the dishes without me asking. It was such a small act, but it filled me with a fragile hope. The next morning, Daniel insisted on helping me with chores. He swept the porch, repaired the broken chair, even went to the market with me, something he hadn't done since he was a teenager. The neighbors were shocked to see him. I saw their curious glances, their whispers. Once, those whispers had filled me with shame, but now, I didn't care. As days passed, I began to see glimmers of the boy I had raised. We laughed together again, sharing memories of his childhood. At night, we would sit by the fire, and he would listen quietly as I told stories of our ancestors. Stories he had once dismissed as old-fashioned, double quotes, but beneath the joy, there was still a shadow. One evening, as we sat watching the sunset, I finally asked the question that had haunted me for years. Daniel, I said softly, when you turned me away that day, did you ever think of me after? His face crumpled, guilt washing over him. Every single day, Mama, I tried to bury the memories, but they haunted me. Sometimes, I'd dream of you standing in the doorway, holding that basket of food. I'd wake up sweating, sick with shame. I wanted to call you so many times, but I was a coward. I thought you'd hate me. I thought it was too late. I took a deep breath, fighting back tears. It was never too late, my son. The door to a mother's heart is always opened, but every moment you stayed silent, it was like a knife twisting deeper. He took my hands in his voice trembling. Then let me spend the rest of my life taking that knife out, Mama, please. I nodded, unable to speak. My throat was too tight with emotion. Weeks turned into months. Daniel found work nearby so he could stay close. Slowly, we built a new rhythm, one filled with shared meals, laughter, and quiet forgiveness. But healing isn't a straight path. Some nights, I would lie awake, memories of the past creeping in, the hurt would rise up like a storm, and I'd wonder if I had been foolish to forgive so easily. One night, Daniel found me sitting alone by the window, tears streaking my face. "Mama," he said gently, "are you okay?" I shook my head, my voice breaking. "Some wounds never fully heal, Daniel. I forgive you. But sometimes, the pain comes back." He knelt beside me, taking my hands. "Then let me carry some of that pain with you. Please, don't hold it alone." In that moment, I realized something profound. Forgiveness isn't just an act, it's a journey. Every day, we must choose to take another step forward, no matter how heavy our feet feel. As time passed, the village began to notice the change in Daniel. They saw how he cared for me, how he stayed by my side. The same people who once whispered in judgment now nodded in respect. One evening, he surprised me with a gift, a brand new wooden table, so we can make new memories. "Mama," he said softly. I ran my hands over the smooth surface, tears filling my eyes. It wasn't just a table, it was a symbol of rebuilding what had been broken. On the anniversary of his return, Daniel gathered our neighbors and shared our story publicly. With tears streaming down his face, he admitted to his shame, his mistakes, and his desire to honor me for the rest of his life. As I listened, pride bloomed in my chest. When it was my turn to speak, I said only this: forgiveness is not forgetting. It's choosing to love even when you remember. The crowd fell silent, many wiping their own tears. That night, as Daniel and I sat together under the stars, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. I knew the road ahead would not always be easy, but for the first time, I believed we would walk it together. I turned to him, brushing a strand of gray hair from my face. "My son," I whispered, "promise me one thing." "Anything, Mama," he said, his eyes shining. "Promise me you will never let shame steal you from me again. No matter what happens, no matter where life takes you, promise me you'll always come home." He gripped my hands tightly, his voice steady and strong. "I promise." And in that moment, I knew, even broken bonds can be mended. Even shattered hearts can heal, because love, a mother's love, is the strongest thread of all.